I'm not one of those therapists that I'm not Freudian. I don't think that spirituality is delusional. I know a ton of people who, when you're going back to the brain science we talk about of the front brain and the subbrain, where they had a moment where their front brain turned off. Their subbrain was incredibly active. And they're telling me about it. And they're telling me that they went into this place where they saw a connection to all things. They have a profound empathy for creation. They don't identify with their ego as much. They still want to be a person, but they don't really care about being a powerful or right or proud or whatever person. They just want to be loving and good and connected to other people. And they had this spiritual experience, in that subbrain place. And I'm not saying that isn't real or it doesn't come from a metaphysical thing. I'm a therapist. I'm not a priest. And when you talk to them, it's working out for them. They quit drinking. They went to this place. They turned their life around. People think they're easier to deal with. Maybe they change their job to something that's more fulfilling. It works out for them for the rest of their life. I know a lot of people where that happened. And I think that is interesting. I don't know where it comes from, but that kind of spirituality, I'm not saying it's bad because it's not logical. I don't think that's right. But a delusion where you have an experience in the subbrain that is beyond logic, that is beyond language, that is beyond time, it feels spiritual, okay? Which is what makes it. That's why I think people say, well, all spiritual people are just delusional, or all spiritual people are just weak and they're trying to find a way to make themselves feel powerful. That definitely is a dynamic. Anybody who says it doesn't happen is wrong. I don't think that's behind all spirituality, having sat with multiple types of people in a religious and non-religious setting, dealing with religion for most of my life. I don't. But when you look at somebody like in the Amy Carlson documentary, the Love Has Won documentary that about Amy Carlson, she is smoking drugs and drinking fifths of vodka and saying, well, for you, these are drugs, but for me, they're spiritual tools. She looks pitiful. They're in a trailer. And the people around her are saying, you can't see it, but I see it. And she is God. And I feel that. And she's dead. And they're still in that cult. They still believe that. Everything that she said was going to happen didn't happen. That is a delusion that is looking and functioning like a spiritual experience. How do you tell those apart? Well, people get frustrated, especially Western, psychology, because there isn't an empirical way to do it. You can't give somebody the MMPI, the Minnesota Psychiatric Screener. You can't give somebody, a deck 4 and then have it say, this person is actually a guru and this person is a charlatan, or this person is having a delusion and this person has a spiritual experience. You kind of have to have done your own work with these things to just be able to get a vibe, and you still don't have certainty. And I think that is why a lot of scientists just say, well, that's not science, so I'm not going to go there, which, yeah, you're right. It's not, and you don't have to if you don't want to. But it's another reason why a lot of therapists, in a way that is not helpful, say all spirituality is bad, it's illogical, I'm an enlightened atheist, or they say all spirituality is good, and I'm just going to encourage everybody to be woo-woo, and in doing that, you enable a delusion, okay? So when you're trying to find somebody, just be aware of how they're treating those experiences. But, that is underneath these cults. You're wanting, if you're a cult leader, to find the people who are delusional. But the problem is, delusions, these people are not stupid. John Alelich has done a lot of work with this, where she writes about how, you don't actually want somebody in a cult who's not good at anything. If you've ever worked with a toxic employee, like somebody who was being enabled by the organization, but you didn't like them and they shouldn't be there, and they made everyone was doing their job for them. If you had a cult full of those people, it wouldn't work. But really, those people are generally pretty easy to get them to join cults, right? The cult is keeping those people out, because what the cult wants to do is go out into the world and find these people who are super smart, who are super effective, who a lot of times have a ton of love, a ton of empathy, a ton of skills. And either before that person has discovered how to apply those in the world, which is why cults get worse when there's less pathways to economic, spiritual, psychological fulfillment in society. Cults get worse because it's easier for these people to be found. Or the person already is doing that and you want to convince them that they're doing it wrong, they're doing it the right way. Really, they have to do it through you.